As the Vietnam War persisted into the late 1960s, the U.S. population grew increasingly weary of the conflict, leading the military to seek new ways to quell the relentless North Vietnamese Army. For years, the U.S. Air Force had been bombing the vast Ho Chi Minh Trail to disrupt the enemy's supply lines, but it was to no avail. From conventional bombs to Napalm and Agent Orange, the NBA kept fighting. With limited options remaining, the military turned to what seemed impossible, playing God by deliberately manipulating the weather. This led to the initiation of Operation Popeye, the only known weather warfare operation in history. The U.S. sought to destroy the NBA roads and tunnels by prolonging the monsoon season and disrupting supply lines through cloud seeding, a weather modification technique to create rain. The top-secret program was launched in 1967 as a last effort to change the tide of the war in America's favor. As long as the operation remained clandestine, both the CIA and the military were confident in Popeye's success. Trouble in Vietnam. After World War II came to an end in 1945, the French returned to Vietnam once the Japanese retreat was complete. Despite the population's fervent desire to break free from European dominion, France adamantly refused to let go of its control. What followed were 10 years of guerrilla warfare between the French Army, the French Foreign Legion, and the Viet Minh, the nationalist forces raised by Ho Chi Minh to achieve independence. In the end, France was defeated by the rebel guerrilla, and Vietnam was split between the Communist North and the Democratic South, supported by the United States. Starting from 1955, the United States significantly escalated its military and economic aid to bolster the Army of the Republic of Vietnam, or ARVN, transforming it into a formidable fighting force capable of impeding the Viet Minh, later known as the Viet Cong. Nevertheless, the troops led by Ho Chi Minh were seasoned warriors who possessed expert knowledge of combat techniques and adeptness in blending in with the dense jungle. Furthermore, the creation of the Ho Chi Minh Trail, an impressive logistics network that originated in North Vietnam, crossed Laos and went into the south, made combat operations more difficult for the ARVN. This network of roads, tunnels, and caves comprised underground hospitals, barracks, and supply depots hidden from enemy eyes. Tens of thousands of supplies were ferried to the Viet Cong to fight the ARVN at any time and in any location. Despite the escalating bombing campaign of the U.S. Air Force and Navy against the Viet Cong and the newly created North Vietnamese Army, their efforts proved futile in halting the influx of enemy supplies and personnel. Cloud seeding. Utilizing various destructive methods such as conventional bombs, Agent Orange, and napalm airstrikes, the relentless operation of the Ho Chi Minh Trail persisted, eventually reaching a length of over 1,000 miles. However, American intelligence soon recognized that nature itself posed a formidable adversary to the Ho Chi Minh Trail. During the monsoon season, torrential rain turned the sophisticated roads and underground tunnels into treacherous quagmires, making it difficult for men, animals, and vehicles to ferry supplies. In response, the Department of Defense and the CIA devised a strategy to exploit this vulnerability by manipulating the weather and extending the monsoon seasons, typically spanning from April to October, to further degrade the trail's conditions. To achieve this, the military resorted to cloud seeding, a form of weather modification that involves the introduction of certain substances into clouds to encourage precipitation. The method enhances rainfall or snowfall in areas experiencing drought or water scarcity. To do so, aircraft or ground generators disperse small particles of silver iodide into clouds. The particles act as nuclei, where water droplets form and grow, thereby precipitating or protracting rainfall. The first experiments were conducted by Vincent Schaefer and Irving Langmuir in 1946. Schaefer was a researcher at General Electric when he discovered that he could create snow by adding dry ice to a cloud chamber. Langmuir, a Nobel Prize-winning chemist and physicist, convinced Schaefer to seed actual clouds. Their effort proved successful when they induced precipitation from a cloud hovering over Mount Greylock in Massachusetts. Eternal rain. By 1963, the U.S. had dispatched more than 10,000 Special Forces soldiers, or Green Berets, to train the ARVN and conduct reconnaissance missions. While the military struggle continued, the Department of Defense and the CIA began testing cloud seeding over the skies of Vietnam. Under President Ngo Dinh Diem, the South's government was going through political turmoil with ongoing disputes between the Catholic minority and the Buddhists. During an interview with Seymour M. Hersh from the New York Times, a former CIA agent recalled using cloud seeding over Hue City. Quote, "We first used that stuff in about August 1963, when the Diem regime was having all that trouble with the Buddhists. They would just stand around during demonstrations when the police threw tear gas at them, but we noticed that when the rains came, they wouldn't stay on." The former agent explained that the CIA, quote, "got an Air America Beechcraft and had it rigged up with silver iodide. There was another demonstration and we seeded the area. It rained." Following this successful test, the CIA repeated the process during the summer of 1964 over Saigon. The agency kept calling the shots until 1966, when President Lyndon B. Johnson escalated the war in Vietnam. As such, the Office of Defense Research and Engineering initiated a pilot program to test the feasibility of weather modification techniques, which took place in the Lao Panhandle. Over 56 seedings were conducted, and over 90% of the clouds reacted positively. It was soon decided that cloud seeding to induce additional rain over infiltration routes into Laos could be used as a tactical weapon. Operation Popeye. The massive weather operation over Vietnam and Laos was dubbed Operation Popeye. In a memorandum sent in January 1967 from Deputy Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs Foy D. Kohler to Secretary of State Dean Rusk, it was stated that, quote, "The objective is to inhibit overland vehicular movements and to reinforce the bottlenecks already created at stream crossings by the bombing of bridges and ferry installations. With respect to Laos, the objective is to extend rainfall through the dry season, keeping the ground as near the saturation point as possible and obstructing traffic that normally fords streams during the low water period." According to the Department of Defense, the program was to increase rainfall sufficiently in carefully selected areas to deny the enemy the use of roads by softening road surfaces, causing landslides along roadways, washing out river crossings, and maintaining saturated soil conditions beyond the average period. Kohler also considered that cloud seeding was more ethical than employing conventional bombs, napalm, or Agent Orange, stating, quote, "With respect to North Vietnam, we believe that as an interdiction measure, Popeye operations would be less harmful to the population and area affected than bombing." The operational phase of Project Popeye commenced on March 20th, 1967. The program involved the deployment of 3 Lockheed Hercules WC-130s and 2 McDonnell Douglas RF-4C Phantom aircraft, along with their respective crews and maintenance personnel stationed in Thailand. From that date onward, 2 WC-130s and 1 RF-4C aircraft carried out cloud seeding missions until July 1972, spanning over a period of 5 years. The program incurred an annual cost of approximately $3.6 million, funded by U.S. taxpayers. In total, 2,602 flights were conducted, utilizing over 47,409 seeding units. Even so, the aircraft were not dedicated exclusively to Popeye, and also conducted tactical weather reconnaissance and tropical typhoon reconnaissance support missions. Weather warfare. The cloud seeding operation conducted under Project Popeye was shrouded in the utmost secrecy. Only the top brass of the military, the Department of Defense, and the CIA knew about the nature of the operation. Besides the crews involved, no one knew the United States was manipulating the weather for its own convenience. Adopting the slogan, "Make mud, not war," aircraft from the 54th Weather Reconnaissance Squadron embarked on missions to Laos and South Vietnam, seeding clouds during the monsoon seasons. As the war dragged on, the top-secret operation expanded into portions of North Vietnam, where the Ho Chi Minh Trail originated. The Lockheed WC-130 and Douglas F-4 Phantom aircraft flew with camouflage colors and no unit identifiers as part of the secret nature of their missions. Besides the targeted areas linked to the trail, other locations were also subjected to increased rain. According to several journalists, some clouds were treated with a chemical that produced acidic rainfall capable of fouling NVA radar equipment for surface-to-air missiles, or SAMs. In addition, Popeye was employed to provide rain and cloud cover for MACD-SOG and South Vietnamese commando units in North Vietnam, tailoring rain patterns to aid U.S. bombing missions and spoiling NVA attacks and raids in South Vietnam. Pandora's Box. The veil of secrecy surrounding Operation Popeye persisted throughout Nixon's presidency. Like Johnson's administration, the new government rejected any suspicious weather operations and even lied to any inquiries from Congress. In 1971, reporter Jack Anderson revealed the U.S. was weaponizing the weather, and by the time the Pentagon Papers were leaked, there was no way to hide the truth. In July 1972, Seymour M. Hersh published the article "Rainmaking is Used as a Weapon by the U.S.," making headlines nationwide. Project Popeye was canceled days later. However, Democratic Party Senator Claiborne Pell and Republican Senator Clifford Case demanded the declassification of Popeye's true nature by the Senate Committee on Foreign Relations. Lieutenant Harry E. Soyster was compelled to testify, leading to public outrage directed at the DoD, the CIA, and President Nixon. Popeye, coupled with the Watergate scandal, ultimately contributed to the downfall of Nixon's presidency. The public outcry, along with peacetime efforts and protests, prompted legislators to develop an international treaty that would prohibit weather warfare. Thank you for watching Dark Skies. Remember to hit the like button before you go. And for more exciting content about history's most remarkable aircraft, their missions, and beyond, subscribe to this and all the Dark Documentaries channels. We publish regularly, so stay tuned for more.